I'm not sure if you consider this a horror story or not, but it's something that still haunts me every time I play D&D. We were a team of 3 dwarves, and we were fighting a boss in our first D&D session. It was a short adventure and we had 2 sessions, and we defeated the boss and we were really proud of ourselves. But our sorcerer had wild magic and did the last hit and had to roll for the spell. And as you can imagine, he got Fireball and hit our whole party with it. We somehow managed to survive and had to run out of the house, but the door was locked, so our sorcerer tried to use a spell to open that door, and as you can imagine, he hit our whole party with yet another Fireball. Since then, in every D&D session where someone is a wild magic sorcerer, I live in constant fear of getting hit by a Fireball. I've heard a lot of TPK stories, but that is definitely a new one. I was the DM in a campaign that started because the other DM didn't want to be the master for a while and tried a few new games. He was the kind of person who used to talk a lot about how he had 25 years of experience as DM of almost any D&D/Pathfinder edition, but actually he was one of the most childish and immature players I found. We were playing a post-apocalyptic system and he complained about everything by saying I was a rules lawyer. The core rules of this system are like 4 pages. Like one of the racial abilities in this game says, once per session before you roll a check, you can say, I use luck, and it will automatically be passed. He called me a rules lawyer because he wanted to use this ability after rolling, because the normal rule is unfair. Am I a rules lawyer, or he actually was a person who always just wanted to win? The fact that he added his own magical items he didn't even earn or find was like fuel to the fire in telling me that I was some kind of rules lawyer. Meanwhile, his behavior in the campaign was equally as cringe. His only purpose was to try to have intercourse with every female NPC he met, and he insulted me because I, wouldn't let him. Sometimes he was pissed because I used to show to the group pictures of NPCs that I found on the internet. According to him, my NPCs of a post-apocalyptic world weren't beautiful enough because they weren't based on some kind of hentai. That scene was just embarrassing. A 40-year-old, obese, unemployed man shouting at me because I couldn't make my imaginary characters beautiful enough for him to screw. Side note, I have nothing against people over 40 years old. Actually, I often play with people way older than me for guilds and events, but I expect them to act like adults. Anyway, we tried to do another campaign, and guess what? Things got even worse. We started playing Blades in the Dark. If you don't know, the characters are in a gang in a city based in the Victorian age. You have to create the gang too, and this creation was equally as bad as his behavior. Obviously, he pushed the group for being pimps, which I guess is okay. The game is often about pleasure, but during the gang creation, he refused to pay the coins to the gang he chose as allies because, according to him, having a discount with their prostitutes was enough payment. I tried to explain that gangs pay each other with coins because their goal is to make money and power. Discount on prostitutes isn't enough payment for support. Guess what he said? Exactly. I'm a rules lawyer. Then they had to pick up a rival gang to be at war with. They chose the Hounds and I started narrating. You are at war with the Hounds. In the past weeks, your rivalry for control of the business escalated and the player interrupted me for saying the gang war actually started because he screwed the wife of the enemy leader. I continued by saying, so we begin with you in your hideout, and he interrupted me again for saying that they weren't alone in the house. There were also 2 girls of the crew, and he was screwing them too. I told him that right now they don't have a crew, but if they wanted one, they could get one with experience in a short time. He freaked out by shouting at me. We were in a park. That the book says gangs of tier 0 can have up to 0 to 2 minions. I responded that that's true only if they pick the crew feat in the game. He kept insulting me and shouting by saying the game is crap and I'm an asshole who follows the rules. At this point, I asked myself, Is it worth playing with a sexually frustrated 40-year-old who keeps insulting me because I don't help him provide the materials for his masturbation? And I left the table. But wait, there's simping. Part 2. After that experience, I was desperate. I couldn't find a new group after the first lockdown, and I don't like playing on Discord. I can't stay focused, plus my computer is in the only place in my home without heating, and it was winter at the time, so yeah. After some time during the second lockdown, the player from last time, we'll just call him Michael, said to me that he wanted to play a Legend of the Five Rings game. If you don't know, it's a game in a setting kind of like feudal Japan, where the characters are all samurai. The campaign would be based on Jororo, an anime movie he watched. I was a bit skeptical, mostly because he is the kind of person that knows only D&D or Pathfinder in his personal vision. With personal vision, I mean, every time you try to say that your spell does what the book says it does, he shuts you up by calling you a rules lawyer. Okay, I'm just saying, was the incessant incel behavior not a red flag, or was the rules lawyer thing the only thing? Anyway, I was desperate, so I accepted because I thought as a DM he would be better. But no! Since we were still in lockdown, we started the campaign on Discord. I wanted to wait and play in person, but everyone else wanted to start online, so I accepted to play online despite not liking it. He made an announcement on a group to look for new players. We had a new player from a different region. I'll call her Karen. Since the beginning of the campaign, the DM was trying to hit on Karen. He made her the main character of the campaign, giving her powerful items and power-ups, allowing her to do metagaming, skipping the malice she would have for certain actions, allowing her to do 4 actions in combat with a standard action, and so on, while trying to flirt in every possible way on the group chat, and even praising her actions even if she was metagaming. By the way, his flirts were the most embarrassing thing I have ever seen. He was posting pictures of some manga where characters were groping the boobs of another character while saying, I'm not saying that. I'm not reading that out loud. Nope. Anyway, he also kept on mentioning Karen's breasts. Only woman in the campaign, by the way, while talking in the group. Or even better, when he found out she was a vegetarian, Michael said he was against the massive consumption of meat too. And it's funny because before the lockdown, he went to fast food before playing and ordered 3 burgers at a time only for himself. Some examples of what the campaign was. Due to our backgrounds on this game, you roll for part of that, we had both the personal quest of finding the weapons of our ancestors. I wrote my background around the search of a sword of a goddess, Lady Shinjo, the founder of my clan. Meanwhile, Karen didn't write anything at all. What happened? Not only did I not find the sword, but the DM made me understand that if I ever did, the weapon would be only a decoration and unable to do any real damage. Karen found a yari, a bamboo spear used by one of her ancestors. Her spear can literally shoot bolts of lightning that come from the sky. Also, for those of you who don't know, in the game there are 2 stats, honor and glory. You may gain or lose points based on the actions of the character. We killed a woman who was actually a demon, and the human who was helping her in the fight, so the DM said we lost glory, because according to him, they were innocent. I tried to argue by saying no one saw us doing it, but the DM responded that saying honor and glory, they're personal. It doesn't matter if people can't see us. The very next session, Karen found some corpses she wanted to bury. Keep in mind, touching a dead body is a big dishonor for a samurai, and it causes a great loss of the honor points. I said to Karen, be careful, touching dead bodies is a dishonor for a samurai. She told me she didn't care, and Michael said, oh, well, there aren't any people around her that can see her, eh? So she can't lose honor. The entire campaign was basically a crappy theme park ride. On the rail, you can see the scenes the DM was preparing for Karen. NPCs would only talk to her, spiritual trips where she spoke with her ancestors, and so on. On the other hand, Karen was an extremely childish person who enjoyed all the attention she had. After every session, she was menacing to start a PvP situation by saying things like, I may do something bad next week. Michael, check the 5-minute voice message I sent you. According to Michael, we didn't pay enough attention to her too, basically when we had to split the party. Me and the other player on the left, Karen and another player on the right. We had encounters with skeletons. While we were fighting, Karen summoned her legendary spear, so Michael asks us, "Don't you have a reaction to her?" I respond by saying, "No. I'm fighting for my life. I don't care what's happening outside the fight." And I could keep going, talking about how the campaign was bad because the DM didn't know anything about both the system and the setting. The fun thing is that he asked me to correct him when he was forgetting things, but every time I did, he just said I was a rules lawyer and too bounded to the books because I can't create something original. This is fun because every original setting made by him is literally another game/anime, but just played with a popular rule set. He also didn't understand the game. He was playing a game mostly about intrigue, duels, politics, and war like it was a dungeon crawler, and then complained by saying things like, "This game made for millennials is so bad." During that period, international editors started pre-orders for our version of Cyberpunk Red. I said in the group chat I was going to buy it. Michael offered me €10 to contribute because he wanted the PDF version of the game. I usually let the other players use my PDF as long as they don't share it. I said it was okay because they send you 2 codes for the digital version of the rulebook, one at the moment of the pre-order and one in the last page of the book. Since I'm a student and the only one in the group that buys the games, I'm glad when someone wants to help me buy them. Since the books were still being printed, we had only one code. I used it, but then Michael asked if he could have a copy of my version to read, so we could start his totally original campaign based on the world of Alita Battle Angel, as soon as possible, of course. I sent him a copy of the file because I wanted to end the crappy campaign we were already doing as quickly as possible. Keep in mind that when you download the PDF, on every page there is your name and the transaction code, so editors can track people responsible for piracy. We kept going on with the campaign. After every session, we spent at least half an hour arguing. Me and Christopher, a longtime friend of Michael, against Karen and Michael, because the group didn't do what she wanted. I said I couldn't stand this anymore, playing with a group of people who spend more time arguing than playing. Michael tried to save the group because he didn't want to lose favor with Christopher, who was like a driver, and me, because I buy the books. He claimed that he wanted to discuss what was wrong with the campaign. We said that Karen was getting all the attention and favoritism while the campaign was getting repetitive. He freaked out by saying she is a true good player unlike us. I responded with, "Fine, play with her," and left. The story could end here, but there is more. A week later, I see a Facebook post announcing that in a group, Michael is selling a digital copy of Cyberpunk Red. I had a bad feeling about it, so I went in with a fake profile and said I was interested and asked him to send me some screenshots. Lo and behold, I saw that it was the copy with my name on it. Then I asked why there was that name instead of his. He responded by saying that my name was actually a fake name invented by him. He was selling a PDF bought by me with my name and the transaction code on it while claiming I didn't exist. For this, I could have him reported for piracy and copyright infraction by the editors, and being fined in the best case, which is still bad because I study and I couldn't pay for it. For something he did, by the way. He wasn't only the worst DM and player I ever met, but one of the shittiest human beings. Side note, at the end, I found out that Karen left the group too, because I guess she got tired of an oh-so-disgusting man trying to flirt with her. Well, that's probably the worst story I think I've ever read. Maybe there's one that beats it in the mega collection, but yeah, this one is definitely a horror story for the ages. So let's get this part out of the way first. Look, unsolicited flirting through Dungeons and Dragons, it's weird. If you are so confident in your flirting abilities that you think you can pick someone up through a friggin' tabletop role-playing game, then please do take it outside the game so at least people don't need to see your embarrassing failure in their leisure time. I do feel like that goes without saying, but hey, you might as well include it. Now, what about favoritism? That's a big part of this story, and favoritism comes up a lot. And I actually think that it is 100% possible for a couple to play D&D together. I have seen comments before that say that couples are absolutely not allowed at the table, and I think that that's a really silly rule. It's absolutely possible for a couple to be at the table and not have favoritism. When in doubt, fall back on the rules and think about what you are doing. Even if you're not a romantic couple, just a couple friends, just think, hey, am I showing some kind of favoritism? If that thought enters your mind, then start assessing your actions and maybe even talk to the rest of the group. Do you feel like I'm showing favoritism? And if they respond by saying yes, talk about it with both the group and your partner and see what's going on and what you can do to amend the situation. In short, it's absolutely possible for best friends to play D&D together or romantic partners to play D&D together without showing favoritism. Alright, if you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories and you want to let me know, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more episodes of the series, then please do hit subscribe. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, the simp and the Karen, to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.